你唔顧自己，都顧下個孫啦。
個孫咁錫你，萬一有咩事，
喊死佢啊！
我會改㗎啦。
I'm paralyzed from the neck down.
Where there's big, there's small.
Where are you from?
I'm from the island of Manhattan.
The small must know its place, and the big must act their size.
I am kidnapped.
Not on my watch.
Sunday, Gulliver's Travels on Pearl's Weekend Blockbuster.
Oh, that is so creepy.
Gather evidence and follow it without bias.
The evidence leads in an unpleasant direction.
This guy, Palat, he's framing you.
Are you okay?
I have something I have to tell you.
Thursday, Bones at 10:35 on Pearl.
Monetary Authority scraps daily conversion limit for renminbi in boost to local investors. 3 arrested as scuffles break out at Occupy protest site. And Obama and Xi unveil new pledges to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Good evening and welcome. The daily yuan conversion limit for Hong Kong residents will be scrapped next Monday. The move by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority is adding to investor anticipation ahead of next week's launch of the Shanghai-Hong Kong stock trading link. Evelina Leung reports.
Good news for investors. The Hong Kong Monetary Authority announced today the renminbi conversion limit of 20,000 yuan per day for Hong Kong residents will be lifted starting November 17th. That's the day Hong Kong and Shanghai will link up their stock exchanges in a cross-border share trading scheme.
With the removal of these limits, it will be much more convenient for Hong Kong residents to buy, sell renminbi. Many of them would actually be interested in participating in the new Hong Kong-Shanghai Stock Connect, and it will be useful for them to buy, sell more freely. And that will also help other wealth management products denominated and settled in renminbi.
However, the daily cross-border remittance limit of 80,000 yuan will still be in place because of mainland regulations. Chan says the removal of the cap will facilitate the launch of new renminbi investment products by local financial institutions, as well as raise Hong Kong's position as an offshore renminbi business center to new heights. The Monetary Authority chief says while he expects the buying and selling of yuan to increase substantially with the launch of the Shanghai-Hong Kong Stock Connect, he doesn't think it will create a shortage of renminbi in the city. Chan pointed out that the renminbi liquidity pool in Hong Kong is already 1.1 trillion yuan, and that should be enough to cater to the needs of local residents. The 20,000 yuan conversion limit was implemented in 2004, when the SAR became the first city outside the mainland to allow banks to accept yuan deposits. It was put in place to prevent rampant currency speculation. Evelina Lang, TVB News.
Local investors and businesses are welcoming the decision to scrap the 20,000 yuan limit, saying it'll make it easier to manage their mainland investments. Stephanie Choi with that part of the story.
People we spoke to said the change doesn't give them the incentive to increase their renminbi savings.
I
don't have a lot of money in the bank anyway, this man said. Another man said he won't be affected by the removal of the limit since he usually converts less than 20,000 yuan each time. This man said the limit should have been scrapped a long time ago. We don't have to sneak around anymore, he said, referring to how some got around the 20,000 yuan limit by going to currency exchange outlets to convert their money. Staff from a currency exchange outlet told us they would lose business now that the cap is about to be scrapped. We've never limited our customers, she said, but without the cap, more customers would head to banks for currency exchange. Lawmaker Jeffrey Lam, who's vice chairman of the Business and Professionals Alliance, welcomed the move, saying it will benefit small and medium enterprises.
This lifting of the 20,000 limit will help the managing of the asset of Hong Kong people in both on both sides of the Hong Kong as well as in the mainland.
我估計咧未來2-3個禮拜咧。
A banker said his industry is prepared for the adjustment and that he expects clients to convert large amounts of renminbi over the next few weeks. Another banker said with the increase in demand for renminbi, he expects a possible rise in the value of the currency in the short run. He also said he sees a possible increase in the interest rate for fixed renminbi deposits for the same reason. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Scuffles at the main Occupy protest zone in Admiralty today on day 46 of the civil disobedience movement. Chaos broke out at Admiralty this afternoon after some people threw animal organs and bags of offal at Next Media chairman Jimmy Lai. He was reportedly resting inside one of the tents at the time of the incident. Now, that happened around 4:30 p.m. today. According to witnesses, the attackers attempted to escape but were held by Occupy protesters. A few men were then forced onto the ground and some protesters tied their hands and feet with plastic cords. Police arrived at the scene moments later. 2 people were injured, including a man who was carried away on a stretcher. Police arrested 3 people and classified the case as an assault. And as Owen Fung reports, there is lingering uncertainty over when authorities will take action to enforce an extended court injunction against Occupy protesters.
There's been growing speculation over when authorities will act to enforce the High Court's extended injunction orders against Occupy protesters outside CITIC Tower in Admiralty and at certain areas in Mong Kok. A lawyer for one of the injunction applicants suggested it could take time for the orders to be carried out. That's because they need to be served to many people before the bailiffs can enforce them.
We have to resort to the so-called substituted service procedure by putting an advertisement on one Chinese newspaper and one English newspaper. And then we will post the order on site. It might be necessary that we actually go to the site and announce the gist of the order to the people there, and also tell them the consequence of non-compliance with the order.
Kwong also said that because an appeal has been submitted against the injunction, it's added to the uncertainty on when it will be carried out. The court has also authorized the police to arrest anyone who obstructs bailiffs from carrying out their duties. Legislator Ronnie Tong explained what would happen to those arrested.
Experience tells us that in Hong Kong, somebody who is guilty of contempt of court may be in prison from, say, a few hours to 1 or 2 weeks.
Tong called on people not to resist while the police and the bailiffs are executing the injunction orders, because he believes abiding by the court order is essential in upholding the rule of law. Meanwhile, a group of pro-establishment legislators also called on protesters to obey the High Court's ruling.
One of the very important elements is to respect the court order. So there's nothing to say that you breach the law and then you surrender and then this is part of the law. Part of the rule of law. I think it's completely opposite.
Pan-Democrat Albert Ho disagreed.
The rule of law doesn't mean just complete obedience to the law. By engaging in the action of disobedience, we have in mind that we are pursuing a higher goal of social justice. We are committed to pursuing this ideal for the purpose of upholding certain higher values, which precisely is the rule of law.
Ho added that even if protesters accept the legal consequences of breaching the court order, they should still abide by the principle of non-violence. Owen Fung, TVB News.
After 2 days of intense negotiations, President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Barack Obama have unveiled several agreements on everything from trade to military cooperation. The world's 2 biggest carbon polluters also made an unprecedented joint pledge to cut carbon emissions. With tension a seemingly unavoidable aspect of China-U.S. relations, there was much on the table during these talks and much at stake. As he closed his first visit to China in 6 years, U.S. President Barack Obama said he and his host have reached a common understanding on how to move the relationship between their countries forward.
But what I've been very encouraged by is your willingness, Mr. President, to engage in a honest and constructive dialogue around those differences and ensuring that we manage them in a peaceful and effective way.
The Pacific Ocean is big enough to accommodate the development of both China and the United States, Xi told reporters. He said both countries should respect and take care of each other's interests and concerns in the region. One of the biggest announcements to come out of the summit is a deal that will see China aim to cap greenhouse gas emissions by 2030, while the United States will cut total emissions by more than a quarter by 2025.
This is an ambitious goal, but it is an achievable goal. It will double the pace at which we're reducing carbon pollution in the United States. It puts us on a path to achieving the deep emissions reductions by advanced economies that the scientific community says is necessary to prevent the most catastrophic effects of climate change.
Many questions remain about enforcement and implementation, but the pact is meant to signal to other heavy polluting nations that the U.S. and China are in sync on the need to tackle climate change in the lead-up to a high-stakes summit in Paris next year. China and the U.S. also repeated a commitment to carry out anti-terrorism cooperation, but they remain at odds over everything from China's territorial claims in the East China Sea and the South China Sea to cyber-spying and human rights. Obama now heads for Myanmar, his second stop on a three-country trip through the Asia-Pacific region. Well, meanwhile, the U.S. president says the United States is not fueling pro-democracy protests here in Hong Kong. Chinese and Hong Kong officials have said foreign forces are playing a role in directing the demonstrations.
But I did describe for him that the United States, as a matter of foreign policy, but also a matter of our values, are going to consistently speak out on the right of people to express themselves and encouraged that the elections that take place in Hong Kong are transparent and fair and reflective of the opinions of people there.
Hong Kong affairs are exclusively China's internal affairs, and foreign countries should not interfere in those affairs in any form or fashion.
Philippine President Benigno Aquino says he's hoping for better relations with China after what he calls a meeting of minds with President Xi Jinping. Among the issues the two leaders discussed at the APEC summit was the territorial dispute in the South China Sea. Back locally, the government has withdrawn 13 items from the agenda of the Public Works Subcommittee at the Legislative Council. Surati Samtani reports pan-democrats are critical.
The LegCo Finance Committee and the Public Works Subcommittee had a backlog of 20 projects to discuss. Democratic Party lawmaker Sin Chun Kai recently sent a letter to Committee Chairman Alan Leung requesting to rearrange the agenda items. Sin recommended that less controversial items which affect people's livelihood should be dealt with first. This included 5 school projects, 2 sewage treatment facilities, a sports center, and a study on underground space development. But Leung said the government suddenly decided to withdraw 13 items on the agenda.
At the 11th hour, at about 1:30 yesterday, the Secretariat of the Legislative Council was informed by the government that it would cancel and withdraw 13 out of the 20 pending items that were supposed to reach the PWSC on the 19th of November. This is a preemptive strike. This is clear evidence that C.Y. Leung is not putting the welfare of Hong Kong people.